Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the director of the São Carlos Institute of Physics from University of São Paulo, I welcome everyone who will share this important moment of our institution. The grant of the Medal of Honor and the title of Honorary Professor of the São Carlos Institute of Physics to Professor John Weiner in recognition of his scientific and academic contributions in the areas of atomic physics and photonics, which had a decisive impact on the research carried out at our institute. Therefore, I invite the following authorities to take their places on stage. First of all, representing the director of São Carlos Institute of Physics, I invite Professor Kleber Mendonça, chairman of the postgraduate committee. I invite our honored Professor John Weiner, please. Next, I invite the coordinator of the Optics and Photonics Research Center, the CEPOF, Professor Vanderlei Salvador Bagnato. Next, I invite the Vice President of the Postgraduate Committee, Professor Luiz Gustavo Marcassa. Next, I invite the Vice Chief of the Electrical Engineering Department of São Carlos School of Engineering of the University of São Paulo, Professor Ben-Nur Viana. Finally, I invite the Scientific Diffusion Coordinator of Optics and Photonics Research Center, Professor Euclides Marega, Jr. Please be seated. Who is Professor John Weiner and what his work represents for all of us and for science? At University of Maryland, US, Professor John Weiner looked at how light could be used to control reactive and ionizing atomic collisions. The development of optical coupling and trapping has led to rapid advance in the physics of cold collisions. Upon arriving at the Université Paul Sabatier in Toulouse, France, Professor Weiner established a research group that performed light spatial localization experiments at scales below the conventional diffraction limit with the goal of producing nanoscale optical trap arrays of atoms. At the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, Professor Weiner pursued this interest and the transmission of light through subwavelength paths by developing numerous simulations of interactions between light and matter involving surface waves. At São Carlos Institute of Physics, Professor Weiner has helped establish an experimental and computational research program in nanoscience and optical technology. Professor John Weiner was a visiting researcher in our institution between 2010 and 2013. Professor Weiner completes his bachelor's degree of science at Pennsylvania State University in August 1964 with high distinction. And in June 1970, he finished his PhD at University of Chicago. Among the many professional experiences developed by our honoree over the years, we will highlight some of them that deserve an special attention and prominence. Between 1978 and 1983, he was associate professor at the University of Maryland. Between 1983 and 1997, he was a full professor at the same university, Maryland. Between 1987 and 1988, Professor Weiner was directeur de recherche associé, CNRS, French National Center for Scientific Research, Laboratoire Aimé, Coton, Orsay, France. In 2007, he was appointed Professor Emeritus Professor at Université Paul Sabatier in Toulouse, France. In 2008, he was appointed Visiting Research Fellow of the CNPq, the Brazilian Research Agency. In 2009, appointed Visiting Professor at the University of Maryland and Center for Nanoscale Science and Technology, CNST, Visiting Fellow, NIST, Gettysburg, MD. His research areas, just to remember, are chemical physics, atomic, molecular, and optical physics, laser-assisted inelastic collisions, atom cooling and trapping, studies of ultra-cooled collision dynamics, manipulation of atoms and molecules by light forces issuing from nanostructures, plasmonics, surface waves, light transmission through subwavelength apertures. There were many organizations and institutions where Professor Weiner worked. To give just a few examples, we highlight Fellow of American Physical Society, Washington Academy of Science, Fellow Institute of Physics, London, United Kingdom, Membre Optical Society of America, American Chemical Society, American Association for the Advancement of Science, Société Française de Physique, Société Française d'Optique, et Société Européenne de Physique. There were many distinctions awarded to our honoree. We would certainly spend many minutes here listing them all. However, some of these awards and distinctions deserve a special attention, such as 1984 Washington Academy of Science Scientific Achievement Award, 1991 Distinguished Research Fellow at University of Maryland, US, 1992 Outstanding Performance Award, NESF, United States National Science Foundation, 1993 Special Service Award, the same NESF, United States National Science Foundation, 2007 Emeritus Professor, Université Paul Sabatier, France. And that's all. After this introduction, which summarizes the academic life of Professor John Weiner, I invite Professor Euclides Marega Jr. for the first speech.
Good night, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues and special Professor John Weiner, which is our guest here and our nominee for the honorary professor of our institute. I will be very short. I just want to tell one story about John. I think John came to São Carlos more than 50 times, maybe 60 or more. Yeah. The first time he came to São Carlos from US, he forgot to apply for the US visa. Yeah? You remember, John? Yeah? So, what happened? John stuck at the immigration, and they put him in an airplane to direct to the Uruguay, yeah? That's true. What? This is 1992 or 3 years? You don't remember? 2. Yeah, 1992. This is more than 30 years. So, and he stuck there for maybe 4 days. He go to Brazilian embassy, took the visa, and after that he arrived in São Carlos. So, after that, John, do not forget anymore to get the visa to enter in Brazil. Well, so there are many stories that we can go all the night here telling about John, not only stories about life, but all the scientific collaboration that we have so far during these 30 years. But we are very glad to honor John with this diploma and medal. And I will give to my colleagues also to tell something more about John. It's just a story about... but I think now US citizens do not need visa to enter in Brazil, but we need visa to enter in US. Yeah.
Okay, now I invite Professor Ben-Nur Viana for his speech. Please, Professor.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm really happy to be here in this occasion and to be surrounded by such a great crowd. It's fantastic. Actually, after I don't know how many years, at least 6 years since I saw John last time. So it's amazing that we could do something that important for him here because I think it's well deserved. Well, I do not think, have that great story like you, Chris, just told us, but I do have one because I had the privilege to host John for 3 months. And one thing that I learned, he has many, many talents. We all know that. I mean, I'm privileged to have him as a friend, a colleague, and as a co-author, and I'm honored. And well, John, one thing that I can tell you that of all your talents, you don't know how to roast peanuts, and that's something that I still remember from the time that we spent together. But that's just a small thing. But other than that, I just want to congratulate you, John, because it's fantastic that you're here, and I'm really glad that you have achieved this title. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's time to invite Professor Luis Gustavo Marcasa for his speech, please.
Okay, good afternoon. Good night, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I am very glad to be here in this ceremony for John. And I know John since I was 20 years old. And that was some time ago, you know. And there is one funny story of John. John started at Pennsylvania State University, PSU. Then he moved to Université Paul Sabatier, UPS. And finally, he ended up at USP, you know, so he can't change all the letters over the years. But there's two things about John's accomplishment that I want to say. One, which is his scientific achievement, is a paper from '87. It's a physical review letters where he proposes to use light to bound atoms and form molecules. So this field has grown quite a lot since that seminal work in '87. You know, in fact, recently it was observed the formation of Bose-Einstein, a molecular Bose-Einstein condensation. That, if you look back, it's based on these ideas from this paper in '87. So it's a pleasure to be seated next to John for that. And the other thing that people might not remember, well, he was a big boss at the National Science Foundation. You know, he was the guy that has the key of the safe with all the money inside. And by that time, in the middle 90s, he was involved with the creation of the National Science Foundation Centers in the US. You know, so. But John, I'm very happy, very glad that I have worked with you, and I'm very happy to be your friend as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I invite Professor Vanderlei Salvador Banhato for his speech, please.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming for this moment. I know John from long. I think I'm the one that met John first. Well, that was long ago, before '86. And we've been somehow friends since then. I was a student still in the United States. And when John decided to go in cold atoms, he came to São Carlos, and we helped to build the first slower. At that time, slower was the thing to do. Everything was slowing beams. And since then, we've been having ideas together. I got involved in all the cold collisions because of John and Paul Julian. And I took my students at that time. Marcassa was my student. Reginaldo Napolitano was my student. Euclides was a student here in São Carlos, and we all moved into cold collisions. Before we even think about condensation, we were measuring characteristics of interaction of atoms, and we published, I don't know how many papers together. We proposed and we demonstrated the optical shielding that today people in Hilbert atoms, I think, are considering as a way of keeping atoms apart, and so many other things we have done. And John always came to São Carlos. We always visited his lab. We even visited the lab in France for a while. John, very cooperative. And we kept going in collisions through Marcassa. Marcassa still was going through collision, and today he's in Hilbert atoms, but still considering collision. We moved to other things, including John. He moves to plasmonic. He came, he helped to set labs here for Euclides, collaborating with the engineering school. And so, John was always a kind of second advisor for me. We always discuss things together, write many things together, fail in a few experiments, and this is part of the life. But one thing is interesting is when John came and he didn't have the visa, he went to Uruguay. And then he asked me, what I do in Uruguay? I say, go eat meat. And that's what he did. He expended 2 days in good churrascarias in Uruguay. The beef there is really great. And then I went to São Paulo to pick him up. And he was okay. He was not so sorry about going to Uruguay. So, John, thank you very much. You know, I know that now you have a lot of other concerns in life. But I remember when we started to discuss collision, nobody cares about collision. People thought that they would reach condensation by miracle. Nobody knew that we needed to understand how atoms is going to thermalize. And all the measurements, all the influence that John had in Paul Julian, too, was an important issue for this. And I know we published a review of modern physics. I don't remember the date, but it was on the beginning of 2000 or even before. No, it was before, I think. Yeah, well, you see, we are getting old together. And this is being really a good reference for collisions up to date. And so together with John, we were able to do some contribution in the field of cold atoms, I think, and start many things here. Thank you very much, John. This recognition is basically symbolic for what you mean to us, okay? You mean much more. Thank you very much.
Now I invite Professor Kleber Mendonça for his speech and to present the Medal of Honor and the title of Honorary Professor of our Institute to Professor John Weiner. Professor.
Good evening, everyone. So as everyone is telling a history about his relationship with John, I guess I will say something that I'm pretty sure he doesn't know, and that's something that I have to thank him. So my very first time I went to the US to a conference, it was a Clio back in the 90-something. And at that time, I didn't have money actually to get the ticket, the flight ticket to go to the US. And then I actually got money from my pocket to go. But anyways, of course I didn't have money then to pay for the hotel, right? And then I stayed in his place. He wasn't there. He was in Paris, I believe. So I was there with Marcassa and Andre, right? So the conference was in Baltimore. So we were driving every day. So Marcassa was driving, so we stay at his place. And so John, thank you very much. So that was very helpful, I can tell you, because otherwise I wouldn't go to Clio that year. And also, I don't know if you know about that, but we also had a barbecue in your place. So myself, Marcasa, I guess Subrata, and Bill, right? So there's something that, I guess there's some things in life that sometimes you don't realize, but then because like that was very impactful. That was my first time, I guess, overseas. So it was something that I always remember, like staying in your place just because of Marcasa, of course, like. And I never thank you before, so thank you for that. Okay, so being a little more formal now. So it's a great honor to be here today to celebrate Professor John Weiner, as the São Carlos Institute of Physics confers him the title of honorary professor. So as we heard already, Professor Weiner is a prominent figure in the field of physics, known for his contributions in optics, photonics, and atomic interactions. He has been instrumental in the development and advancement of optics and photonics in our institute, being involved, for instance, in the proposal of the Center for Optics and Photonics back in 1997, I believe. So also, Professor Weiner has impacted the career of several Brazilian researchers who have been mentored or collaborated with him along all those years of his contribution with São Carlos, some of which are faculty in our institute today. So besides the scientific achievements, John is a very humble and nice person, always willing to contribute and help. Therefore, today we recognize not only the scientist, but also the human being. So let us take this moment to express our deepest gratitude and admiration to Professor Weiner. So please join me to congratulating Professor John Weiner. Thank you, John.
This is the first time I learned that Marcasa had organized this party of sex, drugs, and rock and roll in College Park, Maryland, with the Brazilian physics contingent. But I'm very pleased, and the neighbors apparently didn't complain too much, so I guess it was okay. Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted to express my great appreciation to everybody, to Ben Hurt, especially to Vanderlei, to Euclides, to Ben, to Kleber, to Marcasa, who started out as a little baby, or when he was 20 years old, he seemed like just a very, especially with the perspective of years, he seems like a very young kid. But it's life is long, and now. Here we've come all the way to this point, and so I don't want to run on at the mouth, which is a problem with when you get older. So I just want to say that I'm really pleased to accept this fine honor. I'm very honored to accept it, and thank you very much all for your for all the great times that we've had all together. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance at this ceremony, and on behalf of Professor Kleber Mendonça, who represents the director of São Carlos Institute of Physics, we close this ceremony. Thank you very much, and have a good night, everyone. Thank you.